Welcome to Beyond Tech. Today, we're joined by two of our team members at eTech Group to explore the possibilities of manufacturing or business intelligence software in the manufacturing industry. First, we have Pradeep Paul. Pradeep is a technical lead with over 20 years of experience in automation and controls. He holds a master's degree in chemical engineering and an MBA in business analytics. At eTech, Pradeep focuses on architecting OT solutions that help customers drive their manufacturing intelligence initiatives. Pradeep is joined by Jodi Roberts. Jodi is an experienced and influential business development professional with over a decade of sales experience. Jodi is currently serving as business development manager at eTech Group, and she focuses on the client perspective and their goals, making sure that the technical solutions that are delivered also meet the client's desired outcomes. Together, Pradeep and Jodi will discuss the possibilities and pitfalls of manufacturing intelligence and how to ensure that you are set up for success.
Hi, thanks for having us. Thank
Yeah,
you.
awesome.
Welcome, Pradeep and Jodi. Thank you guys for being with us today. How would you describe your job to a 5-year-old?
Do you want me to start, Pradeep? Since I
Yeah,
actually
go
have a
ahead.
5-year-old and I have to explain this all the time. So we actually was go into a lot of facilities and kind of explore their processes and try to help improve them. I don't do that. Pradeep does that. I help sell those solutions to the company and try to help understand kind of like their pains and kind of help resolve them. Or I shouldn't.
Yeah, just
Good
to
reading.
tag on to what Jody said, our company's got incredible engineers who help our clients to solve their problems in terms of manufacturing. Especially my role is mostly extracting information out of the data they provide. So all the sites provide a lot of information, and we take this information and make sure it's actionable back to the customer.
Yeah, I think that leads in great. Before we get into too many details, can you go over and explain like a high-level explanation? What is
Yeah.
manufacturing intelligence and how is it different from business intelligence and then a real buzzword around right now, artificial intelligence?
Yeah, sure. So artificial intelligence is trying to make machines act or simulate human intelligence. So typically a machine is more programmed, right? You can program it to do this. If it encounters something, you do this. So it's rules. But nowadays we want these machines to act like us or reason, give it something which a different problem that it's not seen before, but it has been trained on a lot of the other problems. So it knows how to break down this problem into simple steps and give you a solution. And there's been incredible breakthroughs on this. So that's the broader topic of AI. And AI has been built over the years. It's not a new field. It's been built over the years for like more than like 70, 80 years. It started with ML, some machine learning algorithms, and then they built up models and they did neural networks, and then it's deep learning. And then it's got to this point where it's large language models where it's just exploded. So using AI in business, in a business capacity is what business intelligence is. So typically, you know this, Jackie and Jen, you use this for your your marketing and sales, gives you which target, which customers to look at, which segmentation of the market you go through. Supply chain is useful for supply chain. It's useful for allocation of resources. So if you have a labor force and you want to allocate them effectively, you use AI. And so it's a very broad spectrum, and it's got incredible amounts of use in the business capacity. Now, if we take that a little bit further into the plant generates a lot of data. So can we use this data effectively to give back information which will help your operators or your supervisors be more proactive? So if I can tell it, okay, that the plant is predictive, and before something happens, can I tell an operator, okay, you got to take a look at this because I've seen this pattern before, make sure this, and this is correct. Or it can say, go beyond and say, okay, I know that this is going to happen. I suggest you do these steps to stop this from happening. So in just to put it in two words, is like using the data from sites, analyzing them, and giving back operators and supervisors actionable insights.
I guess tagging on to it, there's always so much data, I guess, that you almost don't know what to do with it. And I think it's about, I guess, Pradeep, but it's selecting the correct data the data that's going to help them make the better decisions in the long run. I feel like there's a lot of information, and sometimes you can get analysis paralysis. There's almost too much. I think so.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I know, Pradeep, you and I have talked about this before, the different types of data that you can get from manufacturing intelligence and how to kind of break those down.
Yeah, so we usually talk through, when we talk with customers, we talk about the 4 pillars of analytics, right? 4 pillars are descriptive, which is essentially what happened. So almost 100% of our customers are here. They know exactly what happened. Like you pull up a trend, like a transmitter is giving you some kind of temperature or pressure or the levels of a tank. You know exactly what's going on. You can dive into the past, you can see the trend. So that is what happened. Now, say if you're looking at this trend, you're looking at a temperature and suddenly it spikes, goes up to whatever, like say 100 degrees Celsius, almost the boiling point, goes down for a very small amount of time. And you don't know why that happened. So now you going and starting to look at other sources of information. Can I look at my logs for alarms? Can I see if something failed, caused this to, there was no temperature control where it jumped up. So that is a diagnostic analytics, right? That is the why did it happen? And then so I've covered two analytics, 2 pillars, which is the descriptive and the diagnostics. Now, if you have both of them and you can put some models together, you can actually do a predictive analytics too, which is the 3rd segment, where you can say, okay, I've seen this before the temperature spikes. I can analyze these alarms and say, okay, this and this happened. I know there's going to be a spike and it's going to be very bad for the product. So I can send out a notification saying, hey, you've got these things, there's going to be a spike, make sure you correct it. So that's predictive. So that's actually telling you when will it happen, or it's going to tell you something where they've seen a pattern and something is going to happen. Beyond that, which is the last pillar, is prescriptive. So prescriptive is what should I do when something is going to happen, right? So that is, we make some models and then we do recommendations out of it, saying, okay, I've seen this alarms happen. This is what you should do to put the system back into track. So that's the prescriptive part. Just to summarize, we have 4 pillars of analytics. One is descriptive, which is what. Diagnostics is why. We have the predictive, which is when it'll happen or what will be the scenario. And then prescriptive is what should I do.
Pradeep, would you say, I'm just curious on your experience, and Jodi, you might want to chime in on this too. What do you see currently most clients are at? Are they at like one of those first 2 pillars maybe?
Yeah.
Or are you seeing some more sophistication there?
I think 80% of our clients are at the diagnostic level, actually. Almost 100% is the descriptive level, because most of the plants have a historian, have alarm databases, so they can always trend things. A few of them can then go and have enough capability to put these 2 data sources together and to give you diagnostic. But most of the time, diagnostic is very after the fact, right? Something happens and you go and do it. So we've got places where we've done notifications where it's almost predictive, but not exactly. It's just that, okay, I have these alarms and I notify them. So 80% is descriptive and diagnostic. Now, a lot of our customers are they understand that we've got the capabilities with our partners, with the technology to do predictive and prescriptive. So there are a lot of initiatives which go into that. So predictive analytics is now big, and a lot of people are going into that, especially the facilities. So if you have these chillers, you have all the balance of plant, is what they call it, the balance of plant systems which support your main processes. Those, it's just, you need it to be at a certain level of performance, right? If something goes down, like a chiller goes down, you're in deep trouble. People don't put too much capital on these things because it's a little bit overlooked. Like we had a facility where the waste tanks, that is the cheapest of the whole plant. It's like a $20K investment, right? When the plant is producing $50 million of product. The $20K investment, it got backed up, and there was a problem where they couldn't dump any waste anymore. So they had to stop the whole production. And then they had to go in and get all these things up. And so it's important to look at your critical areas of your plant. Some of them which they don't even consider, like if you have wastewater, you have to neutralize it. If you're working in a town which has strict strict regulations, then you can't just dump the water out. You have to make sure you do the neutralization and do all of that stuff.
Purification of it, absolutely.
Exactly. And that is beyond the fact that you're producing something that you're selling. This is offshoots of that. So predictive predictive analytics is really important for all of those. Balance of plant, and prescriptive is more, directly on your product. Like if you want to increase yield, you want to reduce energy consumption, you use prescriptive analytics.
Regardless, I
10%
think that
of it. Yeah.
I think that they see the value in it though. I
Yeah.
think that all it takes is really just one meeting to really see, they have all this data. It's just, the best way to utilize it to kind of get the return on investment, to make the shareholders happy, right? To make all the investors happy and everything with it. And it's taking that data. And it's also, I think, holding the employees accountable too, because, the technology kind of holds you to a different standard. The technology doesn't lie. The technology doesn't
Right.
take a long lunch break and, and all of a sudden, something's wrong with the machine, So I think that's also, I think that they're seeing that it is without a doubt worth the investment. I think what you had said, Pradeep, about downtime, I remember reading somewhere in the automotive industry, it's like just like a couple minutes of downtime. It's like $20,000 like per minute or something like that. It's astronomical amounts of loss for every minute of downtime that you have. So I think reducing the amount of downtime is absolutely pinnacle to kind of like the whole process. And also seeing that, we care about their downtime. We care, if they're calling us at 3 o'clock in the morning, we don't want them to have to deal with that. We want them to have an automated system they can remote in,
Right.
was it and be able to take care of that from home and, have the facility running smoother without it kind of taking a toll on the people working in the facility,
Right.
having the machines doing the hard work for you.
So I think you touched on this a little bit before, Jodi, but what do clients get wrong about data and kind of the data paralysis where they have so much they don't know what to focus on or what they should focus on?
I think it's like, oh, look at all this data that we have, but it's like, look at all this. And it's like, oh gosh, but it's a lot of it is like kind of white noise in there. And it's like not it is the quality versus the quantity, and knowing what kind of variables you want to pull out of what and what you want to match up to kind of see where you can make improvements in your process. Can end up saving the company millions in the long run, really. So, and I think, and my corny motto is, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And really, I'm just kind of showing that you care about their pains and care about that they're losing facilities people because, they're tired of coming in because, something keeps on blowing, or, it's making the work-life balance easier and showing that we care about finding a solution to their problem, and showing that we are we're the company to go with.
I have an analogy here,
solution.
right?
Yes.
So typically you say a lot of data is bad, right? But it depends on context. So let me give you an example. You have a car, right? Everybody's driven the car to work or anywhere else. It's 100-year equipment. It's like the first mass-produced one was the Model T. You can get it in any color except if it's black or something like that. But if you look at that, you see the dashboard, right? Jackie, what do you normally use in the what do you need to operate a car? You just need two things, right? I use the speed so that I don't get caught by the cops. I have to make sure I'm in exactly. I make sure, especially the 30-mile zone. That's the worst thing. I hate those zones. But I just use that, and I use fuel.
Right.
But there is so much of technology going on, right? It's almost like a computer now.
Yeah.
But it's not like there's no data there. There is data, but they've done a very good job to understand what personas need what kind of data. So for you and me and rest 90% of the people are driving cars, all we need to see is a check engine light that I know I have to go to my mechanic, my speed, and my fuel gauge, right? But
that's a great analogy.
When I go to the mechanic, he needs more information. So he can plug in a gadget, and he sucks up all this information, and he can get everything he knows, right? Everything he can get, right? So it's important to have the data. So data is not bad. Having more of it is really good, but it's presenting it in a way for different personas. And it just depends on how complicated the instrument is. So imagine doing this. I'll give you an analogy. Take a parallel to a plane. Can a pilot operate a plane with three dials? No, right? You need all of that whole thing, the cockpit, right?
I fly too often. That scares me.
But then they're trained on that. 80% of the time, they look at a few dials, but whenever the need arises, they'll look at the other stuff, right? And then you have the black box that is getting millions and millions of data, but it's used by the mechanics and the maintenance crew and the people who are doing continuous improvement. So my take on this is the more data you have, the better it is, but make sure you present it in a way for the personas who are trained on using them. So
Sure,
in our
coming to the right
plant, we have the
people.
operators, we have the maintenance folks, we have the supervisors, you have the higher level managers. You don't want to get to your CEO and show him all the pressures and temperatures and all of that stuff, right? And the same thing, you want to get your maintenance guys all the information they need that they can do a root cause analysis. So my take is, again, yeah, quality over quantity, but wherever needed, quantity is also important. And training and dashboarding and making sure that your operators are trained to see the data and get effective insights out of it.
Right.
Training is
And
huge,
you
which we
brought up
also offer.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about the concept of a persona and just the different level of sophistication around data. And I'm gonna venture a guess that facilities probably lack a lot of manufacturing intelligence or data experts. So, what common misconceptions do you both see in facilities around the concept of manufacturing intelligence?
Yeah, what I normally see is a lot of information put in one place.
Okay.
So it's not granular to the point where if the operator sees this and he sees all this information, he gets overwhelmed. So that's the part where a lot of attrition is because of the operators being very underconfident in what they're doing. It's a new guy who's just come in and you show him this whole, mimic of a screen with such a busy screen with flashing everywhere. It gets overwhelming, right? So you want to make sure it's simple enough, yet effective enough. So that's the first thing. You want to make sure you have layers of information where people can dive to, and you give them all the tools necessary, job aids, or, that's where you have all the ML algorithms to help you, give you recommendations. So a new operator comes in, he sees these alarms, which are typically buried away somewhere else, right? So you want to make sure it come in the forefront. You don't want to pound them with alarms. You want to make sure just the ones with higher priorities are shown, and they have training to know exactly what to do with it. So we give you another display saying, okay, if these alarms come, these are the steps you have to take. That way you get confidence, and a lot of the attrition is gone with just understanding and being confident in your job.
Yeah.
And then relishing it when you know exactly how much you're motivated, when you know how much you're contributing to the end goal.
I
Right.
love that. I think it's true. The training, it's, you can give anybody the tablet and you with the alarms going off, but if you're just dismissing the alarms, that's going to be that's going to cause a lot of problems if you don't know the severity of what
Yeah.
alarm means what. We also have like a system where we can give people priority, like only the facilities managers, the directors have access to certain areas or certain reports of things, so they don't get the analysis paralysis or they're operating off of the wrong information that isn't pertinent to their persona, right? Sometimes a lot of the reports I feel like are for the bigger bosses to see, kind of like the dollar signs and things like that. But it's a good overlap for the two. I think that with the training, I think that is huge for that, is just people, which we also offer. And then also with like sort of like our documentation, having an SOP, finding somewhere where you can go back and kind of see, oh, this is the process for this. When this alarm goes off, this means I'm supposed to do this, kind of
Right.
things like that, which we also kind of do the full kind of almost like protection plan for anything that could happen there on the plant floor.
And Jodi, when you're talking to the clients about whatever the solution might be, if the concept of MI comes up, I got to assume some of the misconception could be around this being like, anytime you hear anything intelligence, it's like, oh, that means a lot of money, right?
Yeah, buku bucks.
Yeah. Like, oh, and like, oh, no, we don't want to go down that path, or maybe it's even intimidating, or just not something they're interested in. Do you see that?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like people hesitant to kind of share kind of like the full extent of their problem with us because they think that it's going to cost more money,
Yeah.
but I feel like once we kind of develop the relationship to where they feel like they can kind of share all of their pains with us, I feel like we're able to kind of like come back and kind of tackle the situation as a whole, because it doesn't have to be like all at once. They don't have to be forking up this like massive, it doesn't doesn't have to be that way. It can really be a phased approach to where we're planning for the future and for expansion, but we can tackle just what you need right now. Or basically, if they feel comfortable enough sharing their budget with us, we can work within your budget to kind of meet your goals and the deliverables that you need to make your end goal, to kind of earn our trust to get to the next phase. We understand it, like it can't all do everything all at once. Sometimes you do need to take things in phases.
Misconception is cost, but good thing is a lot of our solutions are SaaS based, right? Because it involves a lot of machine learning and you need the compute power. So with SaaS based, it is always subscription. It's a subscription model. So you're not beholden to paying a perpetual fee at one-time cost, a huge amount. We have to prove every single day, every single month, right? Otherwise, you can always say it's not, I don't see the value, and you can cut it off. You can turn it off essentially. So the misconception is that you paying a fixed cost or a huge first-time cost, and it's sunk in at a certain point when you don't see value. But the way we do our projects is we first do a proof of concept. We look at the bad actors first. We make sure it's phased, is what Jodi said. We actually wait for like 3 months, make sure you get the value. If you get the value, then we'll get into a little bit further. If not, we pull the plug. You say, okay, this was probably, maybe we go to the drawing board again and we say, okay, this is what we'll do. But most of the time, I've never seen a case where people have not got any value out of it. Most of our solutions, and you can see on the website too, 20% improvement in OEE, which is overall equipment effectiveness. That's a huge number. That's a KPI for your instrument within 6 to 7 months. So, and you can link a lot of our white papers and our success stories. But a lot of people usually expand. Once they see a proof of concept and they see the value, they actually start using this all throughout the plant, and then it goes to other plants as well, other sites as well. So we've not got to a case where we have not shown value. And if we have not shown value, we go back to the drawing board and make sure we phased and we go to the right approach. It's not prohibitive in cost. And actually, contrary to that, is you get so much of ROI. Your ROI is so quick, time to value is so quick that you can make it up. Usually the payback period is within a year in most of our cases.
I think another aspect of that too is it's kind of like the existing knowledge on the floor. A lot of the facilities, people that are in these facilities have been there for like 20 to 30 years, have been in this role, and have kind of overseen everything and have kind of watched it all grow. And as kind of like those people go on and retire and the new generation kind of comes in, a lot of that knowledge is kind of lost. And whereas, if you have it kind of in a database, kind of like in a place where it's all kind of stored, eventually that does save you costs in the long run. There is the training aspect, but a lot of it does pass that intelligence on kind of to the next level, the correct training on knowing how to use it and whatnot.
So what Jodi is saying is I wouldn't say low cost labor, but you can use the engineers who are completely new, entry level, and make their performance close to an expert, somebody who's retired, with this technology. So there's a payback in terms of output for every individual, irrespective of expertise.
Like an AI staff augmentation.
Yeah. Exactly. We call it, like, there was a great word, I think it was in a conference. It was called a digital subject matter expert.
Oh yeah.
So it's essentially a digital SME. It's kind of these models almost are like your ChatGPT or your LLMs. So it helps you do your day-to-day work in the manufacturing site itself, gives you recommendations, give you all of this stuff. It's not ChatGPT, it's not an LLM, but it kind of acts like a back box. It gives you this recommendations to say, okay, you need to go into this set point to maintain the yield levels, or you need to look at this alarm. And so it gives them confidence. And so you can extract as much output as from an entry-level engineer with this technology as an expert. But you do need the experts, because intuitively he's much more better than any model can do.
Right.
A good analogy would be training wheels, right? Or bumper lanes when you go bowling, right? It's great training wheels until they are at that senior engineering level.
I wonder too if that's part of the value add that we can bring in during the implementation for something like this, where I guess providing guidance on how to properly use it, right? Because it's like everything with anything that AI generates, it can be really useful, but people can also put too much into it.
Yeah, great power comes great responsibility, for sure.
Yeah.
So knowing where to draw that line is important.
So I think you guys kind of already hit on the next question I was going to ask, which was what the most exciting application of intelligence
Oh,
would
yeah.
be. Probably the digital subject matter
SME,
expert.
yeah. So I give you an example. What happened was the customer came in for a totally different problem. Typically, it is they don't know how to evaluate their site. What is the bad actors or the low performing machines, right? So typically and this case difference for this is a particular client. They wanted to get OEE numbers at a very baseline. So OEE is overall equipment efficiency or effectiveness, equipment effectiveness. Essentially what that is, it has three metrics involved, and you can remember it as pay. So performance, availability, and yield. Performance means how much you can say. You have a car, it can go at 120 miles per hour, but for whatever reasons it's going only at 40 miles per hour, so you're not getting the performance out of it, right? So you want to get it to 120, so it throws a light on that. Availability is you have a car which is performing really nicely, you can go at 120 miles per hour, but it breaks down all the time. So it's not available to you, right? So now you have performance, you have a car which goes at 120 miles per hour. It's all available to you, but it doesn't, when you drive it, it's not following the lanes. It's moving all over the place, or it's not aligned properly, right? So that's yield, kind of like. So what's the point of that, right? So a lot of times this OEE metric is awesome. So it tells you performance, whether you're utilizing every performance aspect of your machine. Gives you insights about availability. How often does it break down? Are you getting a lot of downtime? Is it available all the time? And yield, how many good outputs does it have, like percentage of outputs? Like if it's 90% of your whatever it's outputting is good for you, that's a great thing. So typically that number is around 85% benchmark for most of the companies and the really good ones. So this company wanted to actually get that number. They wanted to figure out that number. So we put the system in. Once they got this number, they kind of figured out what the bad actors were, and they started expanding on the solution. And eventually it got to the point, remember how I was talking about the analytics, the 4 pillars? We expanded the scope such that it became predictive too. We created a model for the bad actors because they found out that some of these machines are complicated. It needed set points finely tuned. And when you get to a shift where there's a mix of entry-level engineers and experts, the performance of that shift was not very good because the entry-level guys didn't know how to fine-tune this or run this machine properly. So we got to a point where we did this kind of model and deployed this model where it gives the entry-level guys recommendations of set points to maintain the yields or increase the yields and then reduce the amount of raw material consumption. And so this tribal knowledge, which was there before, right, with all these experts who are very intuitive, there's like 20 years of experience. You don't even know why they're doing things. Like sometimes you can be like, you're driving a car. This is an example. This is a small anecdote. I'm just going into cars most today. I don't know why. But when you're driving a car, sometimes you're lost in thought. Hopefully you're not. But sometimes you don't even realize that you've reached your destination, right? You're just so intuitive driving autopilot. So some of these experts, you don't even know. It's hard to interrogate them and say, why did you do this at this point, right? It's just, they just know it. It's just there in their head. So taking that stuff from an expert's head and making it available to everybody through a mathematical model or a machine learning model is very, very helpful. And this is what we did. So the batch variability where they had in terms of, different shifts performing at different levels was completely gone. Like everybody was now performing at the same level. OE metrics were up and things like that. So that I thought was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Especially think about these, like all these sites are in places where it's far away, where you don't have the labor resources available to you. Like it's like 2 hours away from a major city. So you just get what you have within that community, and you got to make sure you utilize their strengths to your and squeeze everything out of them in terms of to help your outputs. And so these kind of technologies really help out in that way.
Wow.
I think the predictability factor is like a big thing, and that's what with using AI to kind of predict trends and things like that. Always, always taking it with a grain of salt, of course, because If you've ever had ChatGPT write a response for you. And so, you definitely want to reread it. You want to
Yeah,
reread it over
yeah,
again and just make
yeah.
sure that, it's not taking data from somewhere it's not supposed to be feeding into those trends and whatnot. But it's funny with the most exciting technology kind of upcoming question. It's funny because if you ask AI what you think the most overrated technology is, its answer will be AI. It's AI. It thinks it is the most overrated trend, which is interesting. So I think that it's great, but I think that, like we said before, great power comes great responsibility. It's like knowing what to do with all this data and then making the correct
Hmm.
decisions with it for the benefit of humans. You don't want to do it and eliminate. We want
Yes.
to be having people doing the
Hmm.
jobs that people that you need people to do.
Yes.
Not
No,
kind of
that's a
like the
very good
easy
point.
stuff.
That's a very
People
good
always
point,
say,
Jodi. Yeah.
why can't ChatGPT fold my laundry? Like, it's doing all the art and writing things that the creative things that we want to be doing. But it can do those things. You just need to know how to ask it, I guess, or kind of like what to integrate it with to get it to do those things. But yeah, it's a very interesting. I think that the convergence of IT and OT, it's kind of like the forefront that if get with it or get lost. You know what I mean? There's no really going back now.
Yeah.
With it, like you were saying, does anybody ever regret getting any of these improvements done to their facility? No, it's like it's.
Yeah.
Do you ever regret buying your first cell phone? Remember how you felt like you were in the future. You had a cell phone. All of a sudden, you didn't have to ask your mom to borrow the house phone or anything anymore. It's having all the answers at the tip of your fingertips and what to do with that respectfully. So
Right.
No, that's a great point. I wanted to just highlight what you said right now. This is not to replace human workers or workers.
exactly,
This is actually with this, you increase the productivity of each and every worker. So say if one guy is
exactly.
manning one line, with this thing, he can man three lines. He can produce more products. He can do more output for less amount of time. Or depending on the process, definitely. But
Mhm.
you can extract more for the same amount of effort.
Absolutely.
I kind of think you guys have talked about this a little bit, but I want to just, I guess, make it a little bit clearer. What role does eTech Group play in bringing all the pieces of an intelligent solution together to ensure that it's meeting the client's business goals? And I guess, how can we do that?
I guess it's like bringing teams of people like us, I feel like, together where, you kind of have, the social level, you have, the engineering level of everything. It's kind of going in and really fully understanding their problem and putting the right people on the job. That's, I've not been here long, but my experience being here has been absolutely amazing, where every single client that I've has had nothing but fantastic things to say about the engineers on site, that they want to request to keep them almost permanently, with the embedded kind of engineering thing, where we really kind of take the time to find the right engineer to fit to that job and kind of meet their solution. And I'm honestly been blown away in just the couple of months that I've been here, seeing how we've been able to do that across the board, really, and just finding the right person for the right job and the right solution, and really understanding their problem before just saying going with the most expensive option, because sometimes you don't need to do that. Obviously they don't want to do that. You go with the correct solution, not the one that's going to cost the most, because oftentimes they wouldn't be interested in that anyway. It needs to meet all of their needs, including I guess the financial one also.
Yeah, in my our team does whenever we do a project, we do like we offer something called an manufacturing intelligence assessment. So if the goal is clear, like you come in and say, I need an OEE system, or I need an MES, or I need something to report these things, then we go and provide that solution. But in general, we'd like to do an assessment where we go in and find out what the business outcomes are. Essentially, what do you want to look at? Do you want to look at yield first? Do you want to increase your yield, increase energy consumption, or if you want to make sure your batch release times are low? So we go with that first. Then we get the stakeholders, as we spoke about personas. We get all of them in a room, and we do workshops to figure out what you're doing right now and what is your future state. What would you want to be your future state? Then we do a site evaluation. We go in and we map out all the current OT applications you have, and we give you a roadmap as to how to reach where your future state is and we give you a phased approach, and we give you, okay, what would it take to do the first phase, like a proposal for the first phase. So that's how we align mostly in business outcomes, that we still look at your 80-20 rule, where 80% of your effort or your value comes out of 20% of your effort, right? So the low-hanging fruit, so as to speak, the ones with the high impact, low effort, we use that first, tackle that, and then we expand on it. So that is our approach, where we essentially align with business outcomes. We don't want to be solving certain problems, which is just a point solution, essentially, right? You have a problem right now, we want to just solve that, but we're not taking a step back and looking at the overall landscape to figure out, okay, do you have all of these isolated problems everywhere and you just found out one? So we want to take a step back and look at the whole site, look at what their business outcomes are for that site. How do they evaluate that site in terms of whether it's profitable or not? What drives that site? What are the, your operations head needs for that site? And then we start breaking that down and saying, okay, as automation engineers, what can we do to help you? You have all this data. How can we help your quality control, your QA, your operators to drive to that business outcome?
I think there's a reason why, we're 2025 System Integrator of the Year. It feels good to say it, but it's like, I feel like I need a foam finger here. It feels good to be number one. They really have it down here. And I really feel like with every year that kind of passes, as we like kind of acquire more knowledge here at eTech Group, we're only getting better. And I cannot wait to see, what we end up doing, all the things that we kind of like accomplish together. I really does truly feel like we're a part of a team. That the clients that we work with, it's amazing. Kind of every project, I feel like we're just getting better and finding out more and improving our own processes ourselves. So
what do you think for companies on that same vein of improvement? What should they be thinking about now that will help them stay ahead of the competition, a couple years down the line?
I think about this whole IT and OT thing that that it has to kind of be together. I feel like if you're not going to be on the precipice of like all these new technologies and everything, you're really going to fall far behind. A lot of the old mindset of it's not broken, don't fix it kind of thing. But if it's not really producing to its full capacity and it's not improving itself, could it not be considered broken, in a way? If it's not, because in a way that's what AI is constantly doing too. It's constantly improving. It's taking all the input, all the data that you're feeding into it, and then improving its answers. And we're kind of doing the same thing. All of the data and input that we are getting, into our system, and with all of these lessons learned kind of meetings that we have, and our Monday meetings, our Friday meetings that we have that overview all of our projects. We're only getting better, and I feel like if you're not preparing to grow, you're preparing to fail at this point.
Fail to plan and plan to fail. I like that concept though, because that's very common in manufacturing and in various industries still, is that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. That's why there's still so many legacy systems out there that are like just on the verge of obsolescence, and people are still buying parts off of eBay and things
until
like
there
that.
Are no more.
To keep things running. And that the embrace of knowledge and thinking about what can you do to improve, as opposed to what can you do to react to things that are happening in the facility. That's a good concept.
You only use so much duct tape, you know what I mean? You can only put so many band-aids on a problem before, but you really do have to fix it for sure.
So kind of keeping on this conversation, what do you think the industry will look like 5 years from now?
I guess I've got a big imagination, I guess. I kind of feel like the menial tasks are not going to even be in any person's job description. I feel like it is going to be almost like people-less kind of production facilities, and people are going to be doing all of kind of like the business, the sales, and kind of like doing the engineering and everything. But I feel like reallocating those people to where they're better served, where there isn't the operator error kind of issue that is causing kind of more things, where it's like, where I'm sure they would prefer not to be the error also, you know what I mean, in an area or in a job that would be better suited. So I feel like it's going to be kind of like humanless warehouses, where humans are kind of doing the more important kind of brain work, and all the menial tasks are kind of left to the robots and the machines and to automation, where it kind of should be.
Yeah, it depends on industries too, right? So the
Absolutely.
regulated ones tends to lag behind in terms of using all the technology, because again, it's regulated for a reason. We want to make sure it's proven first. So there's very phased approach in terms of improvements and bringing things in. So you say life sciences, you take like the mission critical things like pipelines and all of those things, SCADA, electrical distribution systems. Those still a little bit in terms of embracing all the new technology we still look at the things which work and we'll just improve upon it, which is a good approach. And then the ones which consumer goods, where they want to improve, iterate faster, because otherwise they would be priced out of a market if they can't reduce costs or they can't innovate. Those are the ones, I think, as Jodi said, like warehouses will all be automated, and more improvements in terms of what's more optimization, more all those things will be. Certain segments are ripe for improvements, and other segments will be slow growth, but it will be steady and it keeps, and eventually it get there. Like when we started, and I'm dating myself, 2003 or 4, nobody even considered virtualization. Like we had all these big, huge servers, like virtual machines. No, that's going to be terrible. And now I don't think I've ever gone into certain sites where very few sites where I've seen a PC or a server, a machine like that on the plant floor. Everything is virtual now. And so it's become normalized. Eventually, everybody will get there, but there are certain industries which have the capability of improving faster.
Yeah.
So it'll be that way.
I think it'll only go to hopefully improve like the kind of employees' life stuff, because in these warehouses, we're not thinking of it, it's like, oh, we're taking the jobs away. I don't think people necessarily want to work kind of in the in the where their bathroom breaks are timed, where they have like 5 minutes exactly. It's like where machines don't need bathroom breaks. It's like they could be somewhere else where it isn't under, where you're not held to a robot's standards as a human. You can't be held to producing the same amount as a robot does, like in that way. And I feel like we need to stop comparing people. It needs to be apples to apples sort of at the end of the day. You can't expect people to do a machine's amount of output and production level. It'll go back to almost balancing the scales in a way. We're putting people into jobs that are appropriate for people.
Yeah,
I think that kind of goes through the questions and points that I had laid out for manufacturing intelligence, but I do like to end these episodes on a little bit of a lighter note and what I call some fun questions. So diving into those questions, what motivates you to do what you do every day?
My 5-year-old, same 5-year-old, I'm explaining all of these things to, that I'm hoping that, she's had her YouTube debut, that she's gonna move on to hopefully something in engineering. My dad was on me at a young age my dad is also in kind of in this industry, also was on me early, and I wish I'd listened earlier, that hopefully she's got a better shot than you to start earlier. But yeah, I feel like, at the end of the day is for our families. And I feel like this automation at the end of the day is there to help us spend more time with our families. And we're not doing the menial tasks and everything like that. And it reminds me, that, it does give us more time at the end of the day to be with our families and kind of enjoy our time together. So it's definitely my little one, my little Aubrey. So yeah.
I have the exact opposite of what you had, Jodi. I have 2 small kids, and I want to spend at least the days away from them so that I have a little bit of sanity. So what motivates me is my work environment and getting away from the kids and
quiet
and all the team members. And actually, at least we work in life sciences, right? So I'll give you an example. Like 4 years back, my dad had a minor surgery. And I was taking him out of the outpatients, and they gave him this drug, which is pain medication, but not opioid based. And when I looked at the manufacturer, it was I just worked on this project, like this manufacturer, which is amazing because all of these drugs help out. And so it's motivation enough to help clients who make all these amazing drugs to help everybody else. So our clients, our team members is and the work itself motivates me to come in every day or work from home, at least in my basement. My home office, which is relegated to the basement.
With the do not disturb sign.
Right.
Well, I think those are both great answers. What is one piece of advice you would give to somebody who's kind of just beginning their career in automation?
Oh, I would say for me, it was take risks. Do the projects which are the stretch projects. Eventually when you do things, it builds up confidence. Okay, you've got you do 4 or 5 projects almost the same, and now you build up confidence, right? Doing the same things. But I would say take on, especially in the e-tech, because we've got incredible mentors. You've got amazing
fantastic.
engineers, senior engineers. So take the stretch projects. Don't be afraid of failing, because the stretch projects will open up other avenues and you get expertise in that particular field. So do as much as stretch projects, get out of your comfort zone, because ultimately your mentors and your managers will make sure you succeed. So it's not like we're going to throw you in a project and it's going to be a failure. No, we put you in situations where we've always have a safety net. And so it's always good to do this. Take stretch goals, work on projects which you've not done before, expand your skill set, and keep growing is what I would say.
That's exactly what I would say is find a good mentor, because my boss Ray Boudreau, if I had met him 5 years ago, I would be taking over the world right now. I swear it wasn't with even just with a fraction of what he has taught me in these few short months, and the amount of guidance and support that he's always just a call away. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I am not an engineer. I'm not going to be able to go in and say, oh, I think, ignition would be a great, or I think that, a Rockwell based, I'm asking you, what's the Wi-Fi password? You know what I mean? I've been having a hard time with that. I'm just kidding, but I can get on the Wi-Fi. But he has literally been, and all of everybody here at eTech, all the amount of work that they put into training us. Training, I think, was a big kind of theme of this, was the amount of training, the e-learnings, and all the opportunities that they take that previously, in previous lives, I feel like it was sink or swim. Here it's lead or follow, which is like absolutely amazing, because it's not like a, live or die situation. It's a, you can either lead or you can sit back and follow and learn until you are ready to lead and be that person. Because I'm still starting. I'm still, learning my technical kind of terms and trying to get there with everyone. But that's why we have the engineers here. I'm good at taking notes, so we're good at taking notes and getting better at listening to the problems. Usually very eager to kind of say all the things that we can do and everything like that, when at the end of the day, it's just taking a step back and listening to what they want to tell you about how you can solve their problems. Because sometimes it's that easy as being that person that they can vent to, that makes it feel like a solution is on the way, that help is on the way. And I feel like that's what it is here. And I love working at eTech, honestly. I love working here. This is a completely different culture than any other job that I've ever had. And honestly, it's been great. And I've got full confidence in any project that we walk into, that we have the engineers and we've got the talent that can resolve whatever they're dealing with over there.
That is great to hear.
Sorry to get snappy.
Sorry, no, I love it.
Did recruiting talk to you? No.
Oh my gosh. But really though, was it come work for eTech? Was it use it for recruitment, really though?
So I have one last question, and I ask this to everybody. What would you like to see us cover on future episodes of Beyond Tech?
I know. Our new partner, JSAT. So we've got a new company that we've acquired that we're working closely with, that have been absolutely phenomenal. And they've just they just bring so much more to our portfolio and add so much more. And now we're a global company, which is pretty awesome. I love that we can go anywhere in the United States and pop into an eTech office if we wanted, which was great. But at JSAT and Sarah, I think that she would be great on the podcast. I think that when people find out kind of all the things that we can do, it's going to be a no-brainer. So I can't wait.
She's on our list.
Yeah,
I emailed her yesterday.
I can't wait.
What about you, Pradeep?
Yeah, for me, it's like the project that we do, highlight the best project, or not a best, I wouldn't call it best is relative, but projects that we do, challenges that we've overcome, some lessons learned in projects, something life sciences focus, something mission critical focus, something maybe all up our vendor partners focused. I'm not naming names here, but all the other things there. Yeah. So safety audits. Can we do safety audits?
Yeah.
IT/OT assessments, IT/OT, talk through all of those challenges and how we would approach that. So there's a lot of stuff that we do. Lab automation, I feel, is from JSAT. Yeah.
Food and beverage, I feel like too. I feel like people don't realize how much we're really involved in food and beverage, because life science is East. That's our group out here. We're really life science based. But food and beverage is a massive market that is consistent too. That it's like people got to eat. People got to eat. People have to drink, and it's something that is consistent, and they are constantly making improvements. And I feel like that is I'd love to get maybe one of our success stories on here to kind of to talk about how we've improved their work life. So
Yeah.
Well, I think that's everything that I had to cover. I thank you guys for being with us today and sharing a little bit of your knowledge and insight. And
Thank you.
All
thank
right.
you guys.
Bye.
Take
Guys,
care.
She'll be
Bye.